Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inner Spark, where we bring you powerful life lessons through timeless stories. Today's story is called Don't Show Off, the hidden wisdom behind foolishness. It's a tale of judgment, pride, and the kind of wisdom that hides behind what looks like foolishness. This story will show you why appearances can be deceiving, why not showing off can be the greatest strength, and how true wisdom often hides in silence. And before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Inner Spark, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another story filled with inspiration and life lessons. In the bustling kingdom of Ashbourne, King Richard was known for his sharp mind and even sharper tongue. His court was full of nobles, advisors, and ministers, each trying to outshine the other with clever words. Among them was Minister Edward, a man so wise that the king never made a decision without consulting him. Edward's intelligence made him the envy of the court, and while the king valued him greatly, the other courtiers whispered behind his back, waiting for a chance to see him embarrassed. It was on one such morning, with the court assembled, that King Richard tested Edward in a way no one expected. One day, in front of all the courtiers, King Richard turned to Edward and said, "You may be clever, Edward, but your son Thomas is nothing like you. He is foolish, simple, and has no sense at all." The hall erupted with laughter, nobles smirking at the insult. Edward's pride was stung, yet he stood tall and asked, "Your Majesty, why do you say this about my son?" The king leaned forward with a sly grin, explaining how each morning he offered Thomas a choice between a gold coin and a silver one, and every time the boy foolishly chose silver. To the court, it was proof of his stupidity, and they laughed harder, while Edward stood silent, hiding the storm brewing in his heart. When Edward returned home that evening, his mind was heavy with shame. He found Thomas reading quietly and asked him directly, "Tell me, son, which is more valuable, gold or silver?" Without hesitation, Thomas answered, "Gold, father, of course." Edward's face darkened with confusion. "Then why," he pressed, "do you choose silver every morning when the king asks? Do you not know that the whole court laughs at you? And today, even I was humiliated?" Thomas looked at his father with calm eyes, and instead of answering right away, he beckoned Edward to follow him to his room, where a surprising truth would soon be revealed. Inside Thomas's small chamber stood a wooden box, plain and unremarkable. When he opened it, Edward gasped. Inside was a collection of shining silver coins stacked neatly, filling the box to the brim. "Where did all this come from?" Edward demanded, astonished. Thomas smiled slightly and said, "Every day the king places a gold and a silver coin before me. Every day I pick the silver coin, and every day the king laughs and gives it to me. If I had chosen gold once, the game would end, and I would receive nothing more. So why not let him laugh, while I build a fortune quietly?" Edward stood frozen, realizing the depth of his son's hidden wisdom, a wisdom that was invisible to those obsessed with appearances. The next morning, as expected, King Richard repeated his little game before the court. Again, Thomas picked silver, and again the court exploded in laughter. But this time, Edward did not feel embarrassed. Instead, he studied the king carefully, realizing that the ruler himself enjoyed the game more than the lesson. The courtiers thought Thomas was a fool, but Edward now understood that his son was not playing the king's game. He was playing his own. By not showing off his cleverness, Thomas was gaining far more than gold. He was gaining security, wealth, and peace of mind, all while the world mocked him. Days turned into weeks, and Edward noticed how Thomas carried himself differently than others. He was calm, patient, and never eager to prove anyone wrong. He knew people laughed at him, but he also knew what they didn't, that sometimes letting others believe you are a fool is the greatest disguise of wisdom. In the market, merchants respected Thomas for his humility, not his wit. While other young men bragged about knowledge and wealth, Thomas kept quiet, knowing that showing off only invites jealousy and trouble. Edward saw a reflection of true wisdom in his son, and his pride slowly transformed into admiration. As word spread in the kingdom, Some people began to whisper that perhaps Thomas was not so foolish after all. Rumors traveled fast. Merchants spoke of his growing silver savings. Villagers spoke of his kindness. And even a few nobles began to doubt the laughter they had once joined in. Meanwhile, King Richard continued the game, not realizing that every coin he offered built Thomas's future. And when Edward saw this, he finally understood the timeless truth. Wisdom does not always shout. Sometimes it hides in silence, in patience, and in the refusal to show off. Edward now smiled whenever the courtiers mocked his son. He no longer felt the need to defend him. He knew that Thomas's strength lay in restraint, in knowing that life is not about winning applause, but about quietly winning the game. The boy who was mocked as a fool was actually the wisest of all, proving that the greatest wisdom is often misunderstood. And through his son, Edward himself learned the lesson that pride blinds us, but humility builds us. Years later, when Thomas had grown into a respected man, the silver coins he had collected helped him build schools for children, shops for villagers, and shelters for the poor. The same courtiers who once laughed at him now stood silent, ashamed of their shallow judgment. Even King Richard, upon seeing the difference Thomas had made, admitted before the whole court, "The boy I called foolish turned out wiser than us all." Edward, standing beside his son, felt tears in his eyes, not of shame this time, but of pride. He finally understood that the greatest kind of wisdom is the one that doesn't show off, the kind that quietly changes lives without needing applause. The story of Edward and Thomas reminds us of one powerful lesson: don't show off. The world may not understand your wisdom, and people may laugh at you, but that doesn't make you foolish. True wisdom doesn't need applause. It speaks for itself through results. So stay calm, stay humble, and remember that sometimes being underestimated is your greatest strength. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to InnerSpark, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Until next time, stay wise, stay grateful, and keep moving forward.